Welcome to ETAuto Roundtable on how will the automobile dealerships evolve with the emergence of digital marketplace. Technology has always challenged the status quo, and those who kept pace with the changing dynamics have emerged as winners. With increasing popularity of smartphones, internet penetration has increased to 354 million users in India, and 60% of those users access internet through mobile. This resulted into paradigm shift in the customer behaviors across segments. A number of e-commerce players have sprung up today. From grocery, clothes, automobiles, to everything is being sold online. In early days, vehicle manufacturers tried selling vehicles at factory gate, in company-owned shops, by mail order, and through traveling salesmen. Then came independent dealerships. Now the scenario is changing. The traditional dealerships are being challenged by the emergence of digital marketplace and discovery platforms. According to a report, 71% of car buyers in India initiate the process online. This includes consulting, social media, OEM websites, and other online research channels before entering dealer showroom. A research by Accenture suggests that going forward, multiple customer interaction and purchase channels will coexist, and the customer demand for digital purchase options will increase. While another survey by Capgemini reveals that the physical dealership still plays critical role. Consumers with 95% visit one or more dealerships before they purchase, as touch and feel becomes very important. Let's have a panel discussion on this topic. We have here with us esteemed panelist Mr. Nikunj Sanghi, who is Managing Director of JS Wheels, and he has been very keen observer of the retail industry. We have here with us Mr. Pankaj Dubey, who is Managing Director and Country Head, Polaris India. We have Mr. Nagipalli, who is Managing Director and CEO of Mahindra First Choice. We have Mr. Rajesh Singh, who has been for 20 years with Maruti Suzuki, then he was with GM India. We also have Mr. Sandeep Agarwal, who is founder of Shopclues and Room.in. My first question to you, Mr. Nikunj Sanghi, is it really impacting the dealership, physical dealership? Is it impacting in positive way, or it is giving you a challenge to innovate and bring in new technology while selling cars?
Well, I think the online purchase is only adding on to dealership revenues. I look at it as a positive change. I look at it as an opportunity for dealerships. What has become important is that consumers who are doing survey online, and like you said, 71% of the consumers survey their cars before they come into the dealership. So our work in terms of selling a car has reduced. What has increased is giving the purchase experience to the consumer. And dealerships which have emerged as centers for purchase experience are doing much better than they what used to do before online purchase came in. So I definitely look at it as a positive and not as a challenge to existing dealership networks.
Okay, not as a challenge but a positive, giving you more room to innovate and access the customers who go online. Now, Mr. Pankaj Dubey ji and Rajesh, both of you can answer me. How the manufacturers are changing? Do they have more tilt towards the online marketplace, or they are going with the traditional dealership, or how the future looks like?
It's very important that we have the physical dealerships where a customer can get a touch and feel of the product. You give them the actual ride experience, the drive experience of the vehicle, which is not virtually possible in the digital space. But it also it's adding a lot of efficiency at the dealerships and for the principals as well, because we are able to know the customers much better. What are the expectations? When he comes to the showroom, he's already, like Mr. Nikunj said, he's already fully aware about the product. So you don't need to hard sell the product, but he already comes prepared. So on the digital space, what are information you are providing, how you are marketing to him, how you are reaching to him, so that he gets to see the best part of your product even before he enters. Because it might be that if you are not strong on the digital space, he might not even enter the showroom because he's already been bombarded by all manufacturers. So I would say that the digital space has actually added a lot of efficiency to not only the manufacturers as well as the dealerships also, because then the customer has multiple dealership choice within the city in many cases. And then again, the digital plays a big role, that which is the dealer who's more efficient, who has positive reports on the social media, and all that makes a huge difference.
So, do you, Rajesh Singh ji, if you could come and...
Yeah, I mean, just to add to what Pankaj just mentioned, I think the journey for any customer towards buying a car is starting online. I think your graphic showed 71%, but I would say that people who have access to internet, probably everybody is going online, and that's where the whole journey is starting. But I think if you say that the online marketplace is actually becoming a challenge to dealership, I don't think we have reached that stage. But definitely there are opportunities to collaborate and cooperate with each other to give a higher benefit to the consumer in terms of, I mean, a consumer today goes to OEM website or a dealer website to gather more information. But there he gets information only about that particular brand. So possibly I think there is a lot of room towards creating content, creating catalogs, creating virtual experience centers, where a customer can not just know about one product but multiple products in that segment, and in the end make an informed decision, because ultimately the delivery of the product, I feel, will happen at the dealership also.
So you are trying to say that both will go together. It's not that we do not need to see it separately. But like for you, Mr. Agarwal, when we see at online marketplace, what just Mr. Dubey mentioned and Mr. Sanghi also mentioned, that is the touch and feel quotient that you guys are probably not able to offer to the customer. So how will this model become scalable? Do we really see the transaction happening online in India? How will that happen?
Sure. Yeah, no, I think first of all, I cannot agree more with all the gentlemen, the three remarks. I think online is not a substitute for offline, but it can supplement whatever is already there in the physical infrastructure, right? So like we at Room, our job is not to replace what is happening in the physical infrastructure, because there's nothing which can replace that. But we create another incremental channel to sell online. If you have made an investment in your physical infrastructure, you have spent anywhere between 30 lakh to 3 crore rupees per dealership. You are catering to 30-kilometer radius. You are only open 5 or 6 days on a limited number of hours. How about with the same resources, same investment, now you are present online as well, and now theoretically you are catering to the national level presence 24/7, all 7 days. This does not matter whether it is Republic Day or Independence Day or Diwali or Dussehra, you are always there. And as per your survey, if 71% people are starting their journey online, then why not to have your catalog, as you said, etc. online as well? So I feel that this is like if you look at e-commerce in general, let's forget about even automobile for a minute. Like e-commerce is globally now roughly a $650 billion industry, but physical retail is still 6-7 trillion, right? So it is never going to overtake physical retail. It can never, right? But at least it is another channel, as you said. Technology basically, so we are adopting technology. And as far as I can say, we are 1 year old, and we have seen massive scale, adopting the online channels.
So you mean that you're just trying to convey that it's more of a market research platform, discovery platform. Transaction is not going to happen?
No, actually that not so what I meant. Actually, in fact, if you think about like Room, there were already online classifieds, then there were discovery platform, and we are India's first transactional marketplace. We enable a transaction end to end. And what we have seen is 26,000 dealers across India signing up our own platform. We have sold roughly 11,000 transactions. These are not the lead generation or a free classifieds on an online, free listing on a classifieds.
So ultimately the buyer has to go to a dealer?
Well, see, thing is, we give a virtual dealership online. So if any gentleman here, if they have physical presence, they can also sign up at Room and have their inventory available on Room also. Right? So we enable actually end-to-end transactions.
So for any platform like the one you mentioned, so Snapdeal and all they all have the similar kind of proposition?
Well, as far as I can say, on the use side, we are the only platform which is enabling end-to-end transaction. I think some of the names you mentioned, they now enable some of the new OEMs.
Mr. Nagipalli, how this is panning for used car scenario, because you are present both physically and online as well. So what kind of difference do you see? Is there any difference in customer profile who come online or those who come directly to your physical dealerships in used car space?
Sure. First of all, I think the dealers are here to stay. I mean, I think we are all agreed on that. Second, used cars generally are not bought online. I mean, there's enough precedence and research to show that used car transactions don't happen online. In India, it's still very nascent from an e-commerce standpoint because the subsidies are so heavy, and these kinds of subsidies don't work in the car business because the car is fundamentally an episodic purchase. Unlike retail like Flipkart or Amazon, where you're trying to change consumer behavior, it doesn't work for cars. And there's enough research to show that. So that doesn't work. But in our world, I think the online platforms add a lot of value to the dealership, like everybody has said, which is around classifieds and research. I think consumers want to start online. It's indispensable today. From a penetration standpoint, I mean, if you look at the metros, like you said, almost everybody is going online to start their research process online. But I think that's where it stops. And in India, it stops even sooner because fundamentally, it's a broken system. There's a significant amount of trust deficit. And you know, if you think about what a consumer cares for, they care for vehicle condition, they care for paperwork, they care for fair price, they care for an experience. None of these can happen seamlessly online. I mean, at every step of there, there's a broker, there is an agent, there is, you know, you can't enable this online. So you have to have the physical presence. In terms of penetration, there's very high penetration of online. I think dealers rely on online platforms. We work with everybody to get lead generation. Lead generation is kind of commodity now. What we are finding is there's no difference in leads between any of the platforms because there's only a finite number of consumers looking for cars. And then when you get away from the metros, because we are now in 300 towns across the country, 700 outlets, when you get away from the traditional model still works there, because even though people have smartphones, internet doesn't work, and you know, doing research is hard. And that will change over time. I mean, I absolutely expect. But once you get out into what we call the lower B, C, D category towns, there's more of the BTL activity and the more of the traditional approach, and where it's changing. But internet, I think, adds a lot of value in terms of research and content. And I think enabling transactions, I mean, it didn't happen in the US. So I think it's going to be a while before true transactions with high integrity across the chain will actually happen.
Mr. Sangil, will come back to you. What happened that these dealerships, existing physical dealership owners or the consortium of such dealers have not been able to break into these online space, that an independent player who were not having any relation in the automobile industry, they have come and they have started a platform where you are going in and joining in. What went wrong? Why?
No, nothing. I don't think anything has gone wrong. And what I would agree with Sandeep is that online platforms are adding value to dealerships. Like if you want to compare 10 brands, online platforms are giving you an option of comparing a Hyundai with a Maruti, with a Honda, with a Volkswagen. And so what they're actually doing is reducing a lot of work that I would normally like to do when a customer walks in. And when what we call the FAB, feature and benefits.
But in that process, they also become an influencer to your customer. Any customer who is going to buy a product will go and see that. So that party also becomes an influencer.
They don't influence. They just provide facts. I mean, if you are comparing two cars, they'll compare specs. They'll compare the features. They'll compare the benefits. The decision still remains with the consumer. So they are not influencing the decision. So there might be online reviews, and those online reviews could be their own reviews, could also be reviews from customers. So I wouldn't say that a portal is actually influencing a buying decision. What the portal is doing is guiding traffic. And because they are guiding traffic, what is important for dealerships to realize is that we need to increase our online presence, and very strongly so that we can drive consumers to our brick and mortar showrooms. And I think portals are playing a huge role. I mean, as a dealer, I have tied up with a portal. So I'm not looking at the portal as a competition. I'm looking at it as what he rightly said, that I am now available 24/7, 365 days a year. There are no festivals, there are no holidays. So that's the kind of experience which I'm giving to my consumer. So what is important for me is that my online presence has to be so strong, and that I need to immediately respond to all online queries. Where things go wrong, where dealers go wrong are if Nabil has put in an inquiry and I don't respond to you. That's where I lose credibility. But if you are putting in online and I immediately get back to you that Nabil, yes, we have something what you're looking for, it only enhances the purchase experience.
I think that's a great, that's a great point. If you look at the impact of technology on online, and they are different, impact differential technology and e-commerce or online, what it has done to worldwide is they've fundamentally made the dealerships more efficient, and it differentiates sort of men from the boys, right? Those who adopt do much better. Those who don't fall off the vine. And if you look at the US market today, for the last 15 years, people have been trying to disintermediate dealers. Today, dealers are selling more cars than ever before, and they're more profitable than ever before. But because of this consolidation in the industry, but they become more efficient, less speculation, and they just do much better because of the data and transparency.
So definitely Sandeep is not my competition.
Yeah.
Sandeep, I'm actually holding hands with Sandeep.
So, by the way, so I'm glad you say that way, because our whole foundation is because we are actually in fact giving an incremental channel to the dealers, so that they don't have to do anything unnatural or extra being present on our platform, right? They do. See, in our model we need three things from a dealer: product, price, and picture. 3P: product, price, and picture, because those things you decide better than anyone else. And we build technologies, so use our platform, sell online, have be available. And whether you sell online or whether that your presence online is resulting to more footfall in your physical location, both are possible, right? There are different models, but yeah, I mean, our whole idea, right from the day one, what we do is really how to empower all the dealers, basically, whether it is authorized dealer, unorganized, organized, all type of dealers, and they can use our platform to sell more.
Mr. Singh, you have been into dealer development for quite a long time with Maruti Suzuki. Looking back at your role and now, the technology has started playing a very big role. What would be your suggestion for dealers? How they can utilize these platforms and these technology to boost up their sales?
I think Mr. Nikunj rightly mentioned that the way forward is to collaborate and cooperate with the online players. And I think more than the dealers, it's for the OEMs to take the first step, because purely if it is a dealer-led initiative, I don't think it's really going to be very successful, and also it's not scalable. Probably the OEMs are not really taking that leap as of now, but the way forward is for them to collaborate and cooperate with the online market players to take this step or take this journey of a consumer, that once the discovery has happened, subsequently the transaction should also happen and the delivery should also happen. I think the way forward is once the OEM and the online market player collaborate to create the content, catalog and the virtual experience online, and the consumer makes an informed decision. In the olden times, if you look at the traditional buying funnel, where there is awareness and then consideration and then eventually the purchase happens, today that entire thing is happening online. But a consumer is actually not really getting benefited by the initiatives of an OEM, I would say, and for that he has to more rely on independent websites. So probably the way forward would be that together they would enable a transaction, and in that, once again, if a transaction is happening, the OEM has to come forward to integrate that with the internal dealer management system, so that the information seamlessly flows through the DMS to eventually to the dealer. Because the entire processing of the the paperwork has to be done at the dealership, the registration has to be done at the dealership, and also what it would do is that it's easier for a OEM to standardize a experience to a customer through the seamless flow of information which happens. Today, me and you, when we buy a product online, we start getting information proactively. We don't really have to seek information in terms of where the product is. Right from the time the product leaves the warehouse and then arrives in Delhi, and then the courier boy picks up and delivers, we keep getting the information, and then we are also told that, okay, what is the comfortable window when the delivery has to be made. So I think that kind of experience will eventually come to the car purchase also. I think why it is not happening immediately is probably the initiatives are more dealer-led today than OEM-led. And I feel the way forward is that the OEM should come forward, collaborate in the interest of the consumers, and actually the business for the dealers would improve. So the dealers who are giving better experience to the customers will actually benefit more than the others.
I'd like to add to this. My experience of tying up with the portal has been phenomenal. I mean, I was talking to my team and I said, we can actually do away with some of our sales managers because the portal is doing a much better job of a sales manager than what we were doing ourselves. So the kind of efficiency that it's driving into my dealership is unbelievable. The kind of lead focus that you can see on an online portal, the kind of because what they need to do is that somebody coming on their portal, is he getting the right experience? Is he getting the right response? Is he getting the timely response? Are his queries being, so they are not concerned with the transaction, but they definitely want to improve the consumer experience on their portal. So they are chasing me to see that their consumer experience on their portal is the best. So which actually is driving efficiency in my dealership. So I think it's a win-win situation for the consumer, for the manufacturer, for the dealer, for the consumer, everybody.
So as Mr. Singh mentioned, how do you see the role of OEM? Do you think that OEM should be a little more forthcoming in this direction, so that will help you more?
I would not disagree with Mr. Singh, I think. But all that I would like to add is that it is equally important for the dealer to become digitally conscious. While the OEMs will lead, OEMs will give the content in terms of the entire 360-degree view of the product inside and out. But unless the dealer chips in and completes that experience, the entire transaction doesn't happen. So to complete the transaction, I think both the manufacturer and the dealer will have to join hands and have an extremely strong digital presence if they want their business to go forward. And like what Nagesh said, if all the dealers who are not digitally present and who are not giving the right kind of a purchase experience to them, they'll be out, they'll be finished.
I'll come back to Mr. Dubey now. You operate in a different segment. Your products are high-end products, luxury products. Are the customer different from what the customers are in a mass segment? Are they easier to be convinced to make a transaction online or something, or to do cut time on physical dealership and do all the mathematics and research online and directly make the deals?
I think, Nabil, we have the experience says that we have to divide the entire operations into two parts. One part is the information availability, and the second part is the human touch. So as far as the information availability is concerned, the manufacturers and the dealers have to get together and be as transparent and sharing the information publicly as possible. On the human side, there's a huge work to be done. I would say that
Absolutely.
Instead of, we have to look at people who are there at the dealerships who are they understand the psyche of the person. They can explain the products in a. They don't have to say it has got 4 wheels and it has got this VHP and this is cylinder engine. No, you have to just go deeper into it. That is what we expect. And in our space, in luxury space, almost every customer is online customer. So he doesn't come to the showroom at all. He does analysis, what's happening in India, what's happening in Australia, what is happening in US, and then he comes back to but he does come to the showroom. He has all the information. And in his case, probably many times you'll find that he is more informed than even our dealer or our dealer sales staff.
Absolutely, most of the times.
So, and then he's made up his mind. He's come not just to see what it is, probably he wants to just feel it, because he's so well informed that, even you don't have a sales manager, probably you'll just come and pay and take it. But then, the human element is something which makes a huge difference. Now, you made one call to us, all of us came here because of the human touch, So it's all about the human, otherwise, say why should we go, but it's all about the human. And that is what happens at the dealership. The person, how good the sales manager is, how well he behaves with the customer, and how the customer feels, why should I go to the online? Let me go in. The next steps, not the first step. The next steps, you would better prefer to meet this person or the dealer VIP. In our case, most of the time, the owners, the customers, they want to meet the owner. They don't want to meet the sales manager also. So Our experience is that this is a much more evolved. He just doesn't browse and see one information that comes to us. He actually does a lot of analysis himself, and then when he comes, he expects a lot more in terms of the experience at the dealership, and he also expects that the person talking to me should be also at that level, that he has done what I have actually done. So if he comes and he finds that the person does not know what he knows.
So challenge has also increased.
It has.
Absolutely.
So that's where the manufacturer roles to educate the dealer staff, the dealer VIPs. I mean, that has increased tremendously because of all the digital space moving up and becoming very, very popular.
So what comes out that the initial level of work at the dealership level has been reduced. Like people come with knowledge because of the availability of information online, as well as there's some misinformation also. So what is the disadvantage? What are the disadvantages of this too much of online thing happening for?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who get into the propaganda and they talk negative, or they go to the social sites and post something like, I mean, a lot of the competition also does for the other ones, where you just go and post, this is a bad thing and that has happened. So these are like everything has positive and negative, so it's part of it. We can't just do away with that. What you have to do is that you have to focus on your positive and improve your efficiencies. I mean, the most important thing I would say from the online presence, which has increased and is increasing day by day, is improving the efficiency for every individual, whether it is the customer or it is the dealer or the principal. So the manufacturers. Everybody has to be on their toes and try to be knowing what has happened. So even if it is negative, now suppose there's something wrong information is there, to be proactively finding out whether it is true or it is correct or incorrect, and if it is true, then solve it. If it is not true, and then you ignore it, or whatever way you want to deal with it, you can deal with it. But it is better than not knowing it. Because if the digital space is not there, probably still things are going on. Not that 20 years back, I remember that there's you go to one dealership and he talks about the bad about the other dealerships. Oh, don't buy from there. This is the problem over there. Oh, you come to this X brand. I know this brand, but this got rejected by this. Why are you buying it? You'll get into trouble. So all those things have been going on from time immemorial. With the digital space, everybody comes to know about what you are saying. Earlier, it was not. I think we are in a much better position as far as the information is concerned. The human touch is what is more important at the dealerships and at all the levels with the customer, so that he feels more comfortable.
So do you think that time will come when people will, like we were saying, that like now 50,000 rupees phone is being sold online? Do we think that a time will come when we'll have only online transaction without any human touch in automobile space? How far are we from this?
I think a phone can be purchased online, but even if you're buying an entry-level bike, you need the touch and feel. You need somebody to tell you that this
because
is...
of the buyer profile?
It's not the buyer profile, it's about experiencing the bike.
But a 50,000 phone is being...
It's not about the value. I mean, it's a 50,000 phone, you could be buying a 2 crore jewelry online. But that's an absolutely different thing. Do I need to drive my bike? I can virtually see how I look when I wear a piece of suit or wear a piece of jewelry. But I will never buy a car unless I've felt it, driven it and experienced it.
So I would like to add, as far as all the automobiles is concerned, it comes with a necessary 3 times or 4 times or 2 times in a year of after-sales support. The decision to buy the product depends also how far is the workshop. So the human element on this part, it is essential that you should have a workshop. So there might be like you might see a shrinkage of the showrooms over a period of time. I'm not saying it's going to happen now. Over the years, probably it might happen. But on the workshop side, it's something which you can't avoid. You have to be, and you have to have the presence and. So I won't say that it's going to be 100%. It might be slowly and slowly. Like if I buy, say for the first time from JS4 Wheels, and the next time I'm buying it, and I know him very well, so I trust his website also, it is all transparent. I may say, okay, let me do the booking online itself. So that may happen, but I won't say that the new customers will straight away come and say, I buy it straight away.
Still away. We minus e-commerce. we come back to the technology aspect of internet. How should dealer? What are the major area where dealers can explore this technology for their benefits, and what are the key learnings for you? You have been engaging in online digital technology, and you have been taking advantage of it. What will be the message that you will give to your fellow dealers?
So I think the first thing that they'll need to do is be far more transparent than what they are today, because the consumer is aware. So you really can't tell a story to the consumer and sell your product. He's probably far more aware than your entire sales team is. So I think dealers will need to be far more transparent. Two, their response level will need to improve tremendously. So if I get a sales call and I'm responding after 3 days, I'm finished. If I get a sales call, I need to respond within 3 minutes, is what the consumer expects. And this is exactly where I need to use internet from. So I will need to have a dedicated digital team within the dealership who is handling only the digital inquiries. So if Nabil comes and says that this is the car that I want, how quickly can I go back to Nabil and say that I have got what you want and this is the price? And I can also give you a virtual experience there on the net in terms of the entire car, the virtual showroom experience, all that I can give. And then I can say, please come and do a touch and feel. I might even go further and say, you don't need to come to my showroom, I'll send you a car to your house. Experience it there. So it's all about efficiency, it's all about response level, it's all about transparency, and it gets even more in case of a used car, because used car is such a complicated transaction, whether it's documentation, what is there in the car, because no matter who has assessed your car, unless you physically see a used car and you satisfy yourself, yet this is what I am getting, you cannot, because there is no price. In case of a new car, you have a predetermined price and you'll negotiate 10,000 up, 10,000 down. But in the case of a used car, you actually determine the price. So each transaction requires a negotiation. Each transaction requires a one-to-one interaction between the consumer and the seller.
You know, we call used cars what we call them unique commodities, right? I mean, a brand and a variant of a used vehicle is what it is, but every car is different. And it's a very complicated transaction, especially with India with paperwork, etc. So I think that complexity is what the dealer does a phenomenal job of getting them across, getting the consumers across the goal line at a fair price. If you want to sell it at a fair price.
What are the tools and technology that a dealer can use to promote themselves in the local area where they are present? What are the tools available online?
I think the portals are doing a great job of getting the used car inventory online. I think you do that. You depend on people who have skills outside to do the SEO, SEM to get the inventory more visible. You use pricing guides to make sure that you're buying correctly. And you use software and tools to inspect vehicles and rely on third parties to inspect the vehicles to make sure that you're actually not buying bad vehicles. So because, again, you have to address those four things: condition, price, paperwork, and then the experience. The consumer, that's all they care about. So everything that you do, you have to do those using technology. And I think dealers are making a lot of progress around that. But the used car sales tends to be a local market. I mean, in general, it tends to be a local market. And for example, in our network, inventory turns are like 20 days. So it's not, India is not a demand-constrained environment. It's a supply-constrained environment. Selling cars is not a problem. Because in our entire network, the terms are like 23 days, probably highest in the world. Where if you look at developed countries, it's a demand constraint. They go to the auction and buy the car every Wednesday, buy the 10 cars they want, but they need to generate demand through the walk-ins, etc. In India, inventory turns are not a problem. It's really the supply that's the issue. So very different market.
Mr. Singh, I would like to bring you in here. What are the how individual dealers sitting in a remote area, how can he make his presence felt online? Apart from portals, what are the other alternatives available? What are the tools they can use probably to promote themselves?
I think to begin with, getting online through a portal is a very good start. I mean, you look at upcountry dealers, large number of them are not, they don't have an online presence. In fact, why talk about them? Even in the metros, the dealer websites are not the way they should be. So I think as a first step, first brush with the technology, they should get online. And the consumers in the upcountry areas are also experiencing the e-com revolution, which is happening all around us. So those consumers also expect that why should they drive 100 kilometers to buy a car? So if they find that the dealership which is the nearest to them is available online, the transaction can happen online, then why not? So I think as a first step, they should do that. Definitely it would benefit. I think all the advantages Mr. Nikunj just highlighted. And I think from there, they can go to the next step and so on and so forth.
So what would be the next step? What are the next steps?
Nabil, I would say that digital has become an extremely expertise job, and most dealerships would not have the expertise required to be digitally present in space, and that this is exactly where the portals come in. I wouldn't really know how to do my website, so it becomes always the #1 page that you look for. So I would require Sandeep's expertise to market my website, to see that every time somebody looks for a Mahindra in Alwar, I come up, and not a portal which comes up. So if JS 4-wheel needs to come up, I will require Sandeep's expertise. And how do I promote my website? What are the keywords that I need to bid for? So this is where Sandeep will play a big role for me. So and he has the expertise, he has the team, he knows exactly what needs to be done in digital. So I should leave it in his hands and just have my team ready to respond to what happens in digitally, and then also give the experience which I'm committing online. So online I'm committing a lot of things, but the customer, when he actually walks into my showroom, he finds nothing of those sorts. I'll be out of business.
So it's all about credibility.
It's about credibility, about transparency. I think it's a very, very big win-win situation for the consumer. The consumer never had it so good.
So in fact, Nabil, if you draw a parallel, the market players, they are talking about, integrating or increasing business for 100,000 suppliers, 200,000 suppliers. So it's not that all of them are tech savvy. I think what they are exactly doing is they are riding on this wave, and actually what Mr. Nikunj said, ensuring that they provide the experience that has been agreed to with the marketplace. So there is a turnaround time which a supplier has agreed. So they ensure that they do their bit of the job and leave the technology aspect to the marketplace.
Okay.
So I think that's something which a dealer, a small dealer in the upcountry area has to actually be prepared to do that.
So till now, what we understand from the discussion that the online marketplace is more of a facilitator right now. Do you see your role ending there, or you think that there would be more than that, and how it would be?
First of all, as I mentioned earlier, I think there is no substitute for the physical infrastructure. The expertise which dealers have, they may be inch wide, mile deep. They can source a product better than we can ever do. They know the customer psyche, they know what experience to deliver. I don't think anything can anytime substitute that online. That being said, internet technologies have a lot of power. So, as everyone agreed, that the online presence actually is supplementing what they're already doing. So that is one thing. And then, it's a Darwinian theory of evolution. The technologies get better, etc. First in India, we started seeing only classifieds where you can do a free listing rather than going to a newspaper office and advertising. Then we saw more content play where, you can do a side-by-side comparison of two cars, and then, they take, user phone number, email, and then start calling, and that gets into dealer at a lead. And what we do is the next phase, which is the third phase I would call, is more of a enabling transaction end-to-end, but with our online to off. We are a marketplace with a transaction. What we do is online to offline. So what we do is, as many gentlemen said, nobody is going to buy a used vehicle without seeing it, test driving it. And India, unlike US, Western Europe, and Japan, is a low trust country. There's a lot of things. 80% cars may have a tempered odometer and many other things. So what we do is we actually build a transparency. We ask dealers to upload their listings, reply a lot of questions. We ask so many questions, perhaps he will not reply to each person who is walking into the dealership. So that to begin with, creates high transparency. Then we have our own pricing tools, we have transparency tools, we actually have patent on a couple of things which we filed in US recently. So you make your listings available, and then if the buyer likes it, he will pay 2% to us, which we keep in escrow, and then the buyer has 5 days to close the transaction with the dealer offline by paying 98% more. India is not there where someone will pay 100% upfront without seeing it. So what we have done is 2% which we call it token amount, which we keep in escrow, and we tell buyer pay this 2%, no question asked, if you want it refund. But you have now 5 days. So in our case, actually, when the customer is going to the dealer, he actually has already paid a 2% commitment fee, which is more than just a lead generation.
We'll talk about overall, not only about your specific.
Yeah, no, but only thing is, Nabil, I'm not trying to just talk about room, but I'm just saying that that is the next evolution, because so far we are the one who is enabling a transaction. See, we could have been a lead generation company, we could have been classifieds, but we wanted to be a transaction platform by empowering every third-party dealer. So where we collect 2%, and so I think, but overall, if you look at in US, eBay Motors last year did $21 billion, exactly what we do. There are 8 marketplaces in China, e-commerce, which have come up in last 18 months, raising close to $2 billion. Clearly, I think this is the next frontier, which is a very complementary. It is based on the core competency of dealer and the online. We know digital marketing, we know internet technologies more than dealers. And dealers know vehicle, pricing, and its catalog better than us.
So it goes hand in hand, it's not a standalone, it's complementary.
No, it is complementary, you're right. We will never be competing with them, we will never have inventory. We only win when they win, and they only win when buyer wins. Buyer wins when he get a great deal and great vehicle.
So dealers are not going to go away. Doesn't matter.
I think with the same. I think the return on capital investment, their ability to do economy of scope by leveraging which they already invested, by doing it bigger, they can become geography agnostic, they can become vendor agnostic, they can become channel agnostic. So with the same capital, you can now have 3-4 returns. That's what I think online will do.
We are there to stay, Nabil. We are not going anywhere.
Okay, so we all hope so, and it is going to be. Though there are lots of debate going on, it will exist or not. How will the shape be? That we have to see. How the change is going to impact. Maybe you will become a little smaller than previously at the time, because looking at the land cost, real estate cost, this is really an alternative for you guys to get into digital mode. We minus the e-commerce. What are the other area where dealers can promote themselves, utilize the digital technology for their advantage? Like social media and all. What are the other tools?
So I think what a big change that's going to come in, because India is, like they say, a real estate driven business, and real estate costs are probably the highest anywhere in the world. So, and you need to go as close to the consumer as possible. So I think what is going to evolve is there are going to be neat kiosks where a customer walks in, virtually experiences a car. So there will be a neat smart kiosk with 2 people who are going to assist him in going through that virtual experience. And once he has made up his mind, then the dealer supplements it by either sending the car to his place or inviting him to his brick and mortar showroom where he can actually experience the car. So the need to create huge infrastructures would definitely go down and will make more business sense. And therefore the ROC that Sandeep talked about would make a lot of sense. So digital means not just social media and websites. Digital also means digital experience. So if I am creating kiosks, virtual dealerships across, it will make a lot of difference to my cost structure, to the way I do my business, to the way I address myself to the consumer. And I think that's where the manufacturers will play a huge role, because the technology required to create that virtual experience in a kiosk is what the manufacturers would invest in. The dealers would man it. It will bring down my cost in terms of not creating.
So here you see the role of OEM. So dealership don't want to get into why? Because you have a brick mortar showroom, why not start with kiosks as well?
So I think what is required to create a kiosk or to create a virtual showroom is not easy. It's neither cheap, it's expensive. And all that the manufacturer needs to do is replicate it. I mean, you talk of the economies of costing. If I am getting a virtual showroom developed only for my dealership versus a manufacturer who develops a showroom for 700 dealerships, the cost will be divided in 700 dealerships. So it makes far more sense in a manufacturer creating a virtual showroom and a dealer manning it than to a dealer creating his own virtual showroom.
So one can be replicated at many.
Absolutely.
So economy of scale advantage.
Pankaj, you would agree with me?
Yeah, I think completely agree with you, because that's something which is manufacturer's prerogative, and he knows the product ins and out. He designs new products accordingly, which the dealer may not be aware at the time of the launch itself. So It should be done by the manufacturer.
So
it is being done by the manufacturer.
Do
already.
you see OEM taking steps in this direction, looking at the changing scenario?
Yeah, of
Because we
course.
saw some of the manufacturers coming up with a virtual dealership outside India. We have seen few in India also. So how it is going to shape up?
See, basically, so far, I think it's all the partners like Sandeep who have been developing virtual showrooms. What manufacturers learned is that they've started giving a different view of the products. So you get inside the vehicle, you have that angle, this angle, front angle. So all that is what the manufacturers have started doing. What we expect the partners to do is, supplement it with a much deeper and the latest technology and whatever. I think most of the manufacturers are already doing it. Like if you go into any of the websites of any manufacturers, at least the global manufacturers, you can actually browse into the product. You can find out if I add this, how will the vehicle look? If I change the color of the vehicle, how would it look? So all that is already available.
Now that will come on
Sandeep has something to say.
Yeah.
Nabil, if I may just ask, although I know very little honestly about how the OEM and dealer network is structured, but this is what I would like to say, is that OEMs are brand owners. Their job is to make their brand much sought after, popular, so that their dealer network can sell more. With online, there is also a tendency, if OEM dips deeper into online, there is a tendency that they have invested 2 decades to 5 decades to create a physical dealer network. And what if that physical dealer network becomes nervous? Is the OEM going to bypass them now, leveraging only online? So I personally feel that, like as someone who is representing like an online world here, I think dealers have the pulse to the market. They know how to sell it. And as Mr. Nikunj said, it is survival of the fittest. Online, may the best seller win. That's how it is. There's no biases, there's no favoritism. But I personally feel, given that online just supplement the offline, and it's going to be only maybe 0.5% currently, online is only 0.5%. Maybe our estimate is it will be 5 to 6% in next 3-4 years. Right? So OEM, there's a limit how much OEM can leverage a lot of technologies, maybe empower a lot of dealers with their brand and products. But OEM has to be, like OEM in my view, have to be very careful as they get closer to looking at it as a channel, because dealer may file that is it an attempt to become direct to consumer attempt, right? Because dealers have made investment based on the assurance of OEM. So they would never like this to be a direct to consumer attempt by the OEM, and that's how in fact it should not never be.
So I can answer what Sandeep is saying.
What Sandeep, you are saying is on the transaction side.
That's right.
We were not talking about the transactions.
Sure.
You are saying that from the virtual showroom creation.
Absolutely,
the job
absolutely, no, absolutely.
Right.
That's where I would say OEM definitely, because they cater to all their dealer network. They have technologies and they can use those technologies to absolutely create that.
Yeah.
And I was just, you are absolutely right. I was just mentioning about the transaction.
Many of the manufacturers and the OEMs have started even doing comparative analysis also.
That's
which you get actually on.
That's right. That information is unavoidable, so why not to provide themselves?
Why not provide upfront itself?
Absolutely. All those makes great sense. Yes.
So it's making a thing lot easier. Like if I have my products, like we sell Polaris ATVs and Indian motorcycle. Now Polaris ATV, if you see the vehicle, it's a bare vehicle.
That's right.
And then you can add hundreds of things on the vehicle, and the vehicle looks completely different. Now, if I have to ask my dealers to invest into it, it becomes a huge cost.
That's
But
right.
if it is available on the site itself, how does the door look like if you change the door like this? How do your front look like if you change?
No, I think I completely agree. I think those are information and that technology is best enabled by the OEMs rather than even portal or dealers. So.
Because there are a lot of things that we keep on upgrading also.
That's right.
And so it becomes very difficult that we upgrade, then we inform, and then it happens, and then the markets are all over the world. So how do we, with whom do we tie up?
Sure.
So these are things that OEMs will do better. But yes, I mean, mostly OEMs have not got into the transaction mode,
right.
Especially on the vehicle side.
Right.
Not many have even thought.
So
that
why
they
will
should do it.
they not get into that?
See, the biggest asset of dealer is that they are present, penetrated across the world. So, and like for example in Alwar, if I sit in US, now I don't need to come to India only, and from there only I start selling online the product. It's easy for me. But then what happens about the post services? I don't have a service in Alwar and I'm sitting in New York, and if there's a customer complaint comes in, what do I do? So therefore, I say that we have to divide into information part, which is yes, all available on the information on these IS systems, but then the human element, we can't do away with that. We need more and more people.
So I have another answer for you, Naman. I have another answer for you, and that is to go beyond after sales service. The demographics are so different. A customer in Alwar versus a customer in Gurgaon will behave absolutely differently, and dealer is the only person who can
understand,
address the local sensibilities. When do I offer the car? Is there something like a mortar? Do I offer this color to Nabil and do I offer some other color to Pankaj? Now, that's what the manufacturers need to leverage, my local knowledge. A country like India, I mean, every district is different. Every district will have a different language. Every district will have a different preference. And only the dealer, and which cannot be done online.
But if we look at these e-commerce site, when we were talking about groceries also, family groceries, brick and mortar mom and pop shop owner would know what we need. We just need to call them, send us the stuff, and he will know. But that was not there in online for those kind of stuff also. But finally, that was totally overcome by e-commerce. So do you think
I have a sort of a very strong view on that, especially when you compare e-commerce. I think it's pointless to compare e-commerce and cars with e-commerce and anything else. Two things. One is that car is an episodic purchase. I buy groceries every week. I buy a phone maybe once a year. I buy many things. So e-commerce sites that are in retail are fundamentally changing consumer behavior. Whereas car is an episodic purchase. I'll buy a car once in 4 years and then I'm done. Actually, I don't care. When I'm ready to buy the next one, I'll look at who's around and where do I find. And a typical consumer takes about 3 to 4 months to research before they buy a car. So they'll find the sites and they'll find. So that is a fundamental difference. So I don't think you should confuse general e-commerce, and that has played out very well in the US. And it's been well established. So I don't think you should compare e-commerce sites for general retail.
Just Ms. Sanghi was talking about human touch and feel,
Exactly.
experience. So that was that personalized, that customization of the customer was even for those kind of buyers also, which has now gone nowhere. We nobody cares who is. Previously we know that this is the shop owner, we have to buy from there, and they also knew the customer. But now the customer doesn't know who is the seller, and even the seller doesn't know the customer.
So
that
probably what
hasn't
Sandeep
broken.
would do.
You don't think it will?
So what Sandeep would have done is, he would have given you a choice in terms of these are the bikes that are available to you. The advantage that I have when Nabil walks into my showroom, I'll know exactly what will appeal to Nabil. So I'm the one who's going to actually know what Nabil really. So when I talk to you, when I look at you, and this is exactly what Pankaj was talking about. When I talk to you, when I look at you, my salesman will know that, well, Nabil online must have said that this is what he wants, but actually he doesn't want that at all.
So you
And that's my job.
advantage. Okay.
So, I mean, and that is where I think the dealers need to play a role. I mean, we need to actually become advisors to the customer.
So for you, these online platforms are more of a tool of providing information and reaching out to the people.
They have become my salesman. I had
Exchange
only
of
10 salesmen.
information, or you have a salesman?
So I had only 10 salesmen. Now I have millions. So what Sandeep is doing is giving me a 1 million salesman.
So
At
your
no cost.
reach is increasing. That's it.
Definitely.
So that's about reach, and you're probably able to position the product and the dealers in the market. Beyond that, do you see anything that
Yeah,
you
no,
could do?
look, I think, Nabil, we obviously see end-to-end. Actually, in
Okay.
fact, like I would like to say
So he
this.
sees end-to-end as well.
No, end-to-end, but with dealer on the supply side, right?
Okay.
Dealer on the supply side always, right? But my point is this, who would have thought 4 years back that people will buy from Flipkart other than a 350 rupees Chetan Bhagat book? Now I buy a 2 lakh rupees LED TV also. There are websites which are selling, forget about three, actually I completely disagree with it, whether it is an episodic purchase, etc. Because people are buying their engagement ring and hopefully they will never be in market again. They are buying online. So my point is behavior changes. Who would have thought 25 years back.
But still, Indian consumers are very conservative.
No, but it is changing. I'm talking about Nabil, Indian consumer. 4 years back, the Indian e-commerce, grocery, online vehicles, or T-shirt, or perfume, shoes, you name it, it was $200 million. This year, by ending December 2015, India did 8 billion. How it has changed, right? Like year 1, I spend maybe, I don't know, 700 rupees online. Year 4, I spend 30,000 rupees online, right? So there's a, you know, as you mentioned, there's a convenience, there's a reach, there's a transparency, and our job is actually not to replace anything which is in physical infrastructure, but make it more accessible, right? Now, you know, like your HEB, a lot of people maybe want to buy it, but they don't know where to buy it, right? So it becomes more accessible. Right.
So that then you are only giving them information, because the people have lack of knowledge. Where is it available? Where can I buy? But you are just channelizing that. You are giving information.
No, Naveen,
how can you do end to end?
No, Naveen, as I mentioned, like, see, by the way, I mean, you know, we, in our case, we are doing it for a year, right? We actually have sold roughly 185 crore rupees of vehicle end to end. But as I mentioned, we are a marketplace, online to offline, where Mr. Nikunj and any other dealer can become.
Do you have inventory?
We don't have inventory. We have dealers who basically use our platform to upload transactable listings. If someone has 30 vehicle available, whether it's motorcycle, scooter, or car, they will upload that with their product, price, and picture. Then we do a lot of digital marketing. We do a lot of programs where potential buyer come. When they find something, they put 2% under escrow, and then they have 5 days to meet the dealer and close the transaction.
What percentage of this transaction actually happens, of those who put that?
So we have seen literally 99.6% transactions happening. In 0.5% of the time they don't happen, and this is because dealer actually sold it offline, but he forgot to update.
But do you think that this can happen for the new cars as well, new vehicles?
Actually, new car is even easier, right? New car is even easier. Why? Because there's a standardized pricing and there's a standardized condition. There is something called MRP, which is applicable on a new car, but not be applicable on a used vehicle. And then the pricing is as Mr. Nikun said, 10,000 rupees plus minus, right? So it is possible.
Somebody can come online. According to you, somebody can come online, see the vehicle, see the specification, and finally he can do the deal. He will not feel the need. Do you agree with this?
Yeah, like I said earlier on, I think that is going to be the next logical step.
Okay.
We should rely on the sensibilities of the consumers, and actually, once again, I am a very strong proponent that unless the OEMs get into this cannot be a dealer-led initiative. Of course, there would be dealers who are tech savvy.
So, do you see OEM as directly coming to players like those who provide? By the way, you are also going to
so essentially
come into this.
So essentially, unless that happens, OEMs collaborate with the market players to create a platform where a transaction can happen, and eventually the delivery experience will happen at the dealership only. The delivery cannot be done by the market players at all. So what we are doing is, we are relying on the sensibility of a consumer that, okay, fine, you would like to transact online, fair enough, go ahead. But if you want to use the online platform as a discovery platform, we are going to give you the content, catalog, experience, virtual experience, everything. And then maybe you can go to a dealership, maybe you shortlist 2 models, go to the dealership, take a test drive, touch and feel the product, and then go ahead and complete the entire purchase process. But I think if not in the next 12 months, in the next 24 months, definitely you will find all these marketplaces offering transactions whereby consumers can actually do end-to-end purchase of product.
So it will happen.
In fact, last point I'd like to add is the survey that you mentioned initially, where you said 71%. 84% of the customers in that survey said that if they are given an option of transacting online end-to-end, they would go for that. 16% said no. So that is the next logical step. I think
that poses a question on you.
No, I mean, no matter what you do, we'll not split this.
I'm not doing just trying to get the views.
Yeah, so I think he'll answer this question, but today the US is the most matured automobile market anywhere in the world, and believe me, even there, where the proportion of people surveying online is over 90%, the physical transaction is still taking place at the dealership. And about 3 years back, there was this very big question mark that, like travel agencies, will dealerships also not exist? Now I think that doubt is totally wiped out. Me as a dealer sitting even in India, I'm
But
absolutely
travel
confident.
agencies have gone.
That's why I'm saying, so the same question happened, that as travel agencies have gone, will dealerships also go? And that was definitely a real threat 3 years back. But today I'm far more confident than I was 3 years back, saying that I'm going to be there.
And what are the reasons for it?
Because of the entire,
Apart from human element.
it's not just about, no, it's not just.
And workshop, there are workshops available, multi-brand workshops also.
I know, so it's not just about workshops, it's about relationships. See,
Also-
like we say, you can't buy a house online, you can't marry person online. Can you? So,
But at
it's-
least we can start the process.
so
Some people say we'll marry online but not buy a car online.
No, actually, the industry is very capital intensive. So, how the Sandeep shared that the online sales have increased, and that has increased because of the customer confidence that if I buy something on an X website or a Y website, and if I don't find it, I can return it. And in case of automobile, the return is a big issue because it's a registered vehicle. So the moment you buy it and you return the vehicle, it goes to first choice as a second-hand vehicle. You can't sell it again as a new vehicle. So that's a real issue. Apart from the human element, there are a lot of capital-intensive things in the automobile which deters it to become what it is. But I'm not saying that online sales will not happen. I think online transaction, he has already mentioned some 11,000 or something like that. Online transactions may go up, the bookings might go up, but the actual dealing, the
will
finalization
happen
will happen
only
at this brick mortar. The brick mortar might also come down, as I said, tomorrow.
Because of cost constraints.
What happens is that we say that, okay, the showroom size is 10,000 square feet today, and tomorrow I want to make it only 1,000. And if you want to check the vehicle, I'm sending it to your house. So I invest more in the stock for the test ride vehicles, and I'll send it to your place. You ride it, then you come and choose. I have my godown which is kept, but I'm not going to invest into a premier
So
location.
there will be a shift in
Some
business, how
change.
the business is done.
Yeah, sure.
But actually it will happen.
So Nabil, if you allow me 2 minutes,
Yeah, sure.
This is very fascinating how human behavior changes and evolve with the technology. So we have a lot of dealers, and you have not heard about, it is almost unheard of thinking about returning a used vehicle, as you said that it is a registered vehicle, etc. So we did one experiment. We said, how about we give any dealer a choice that would you like to take a return if you sell a vehicle within first 5 days? And guess what? 3 to 5% dealer agreed for that, and they said, can you also give an option that we can charge for it? And they said, why not? As long as the registration has not been transferred to the another buyer, and if someone give me 2,000 rupees as a restocking fee, I need to increase my chances of selling, why not? Second is, as you mentioned, I feel if online is...
But without registration, can we take the vehicle on road?
No, but but there's a paperwork, right? There's a proper delivery.
So Sandeep, what I'm saying is, in case of a new car, it's absolutely different.
Sure, of
So
course.
in the case of a new car, I cannot take the vehicle out unless it is registered.
Sure, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
as soon as it is registered, it becomes a second-hand vehicle, even if I have
That's
used
right.
it only for an hour.
No, you are absolutely right. So I am just strictly talking about a used vehicle. But the second example I would say is that, for example, we experiment with another feature called, would you like, if someone basically give a commitment fee, would you like to bring the vehicle to the buyer, or will the buyer come to your location? And a lot of dealers started saying, I will bring the vehicle to the buyer, and because they want to offer this additional convenience to the buyer, and those dealers are actually in fact selling more. And guess what? And that results into your point about lean model, where you are going from 10,000 square feet to maybe 8,000, not because you are not doing well. Actually, you are doing that because you are doing so much well, and there's an incremental channel which is capitally more efficient, right? So the 2 people who are sitting in your dealership, perhaps only catering to 6 people, how about those same people are utilized now to take the car in a 30-kilometer radius, 50-kilometer radius to potential buyers, and that increases the likelihood of selling without leveraging your physical infrastructure.
So before we go to our reader's question, my last question to all the panelists. There are two parts in this portal. One, they call themselves marketplace. The other one call themselves discovery platform. So, but what we discussed so far, we understand that they both are being treated more of an information provider, or a guy who is a matchmaker, making customers meet the sellers. This is what more happening. So what is the difference between these two?
Sure. See, so this is what we see. See, thing is, one is in the old days, you know, like one is you can just do a free listing, which is typically offered by online classifieds. But you mentioned about marketplace versus discovery platform. Discovery platforms, they do a lot of rich content, side-by-side comparison of two cars, ex-showroom on-road or price, maybe which is a under 5 lakh rupees car coming from Hyundai. They provide you all that information. The benefit they have is because they are digital asset, they know who is reading what article and how much time are you spending, did you read my full article or did you abandon before that? And when you consume that resources, they take your first name, last name, phone number and email so that they can give that as a lead to a seller who can now potentially reach out to a potential buyer, because the assumption is, why would someone read about a vehicle if he's not interested in actively buying for a vehicle, right? As it was mentioned previously, people may take up to 3 months to research, right? So they enable that journey, and it is very important and needed for the ecosystem. Right?
So for a dealership like you, which one becomes a better proposition? Or where would you go? When you talk about going to a portal, so which is your favorite?
No, I will say all these complement each other. So I would like to be present on a discovery platform. I would also like to be present on a marketplace, because if there is a customer who's wanting to do end-to-end transaction, I really wouldn't mind being present in both. So it's all about complementing. I mean, how much do I want to increase my business?
He asked, the interaction between customer and product can happen through digital dealership, but the experience cannot be passed on, what we discussed just now, on via internet mode. The impact of digital dealership will be different for different segment. Test drives and first-hand experience cannot be obtained via internet. Can you give us a comment on this?
Can you come back again? It was the longest question.
This guy says that the internet cannot provide that human element, you know, and this is different for different segment. Like the online buyers can go for a certain segment, but in some segment they will only come to, you know, brick and mortar showroom.
So I would tend to agree. I would tend to agree with the person who has questioned that there are what I would say entry-level products which are very generic, which doesn't require too much of customization, which are already known. So transactions there could be very different from somebody who's buying an ATV, where there is a lot of customization happening. So the degree of engagement between a digital platform in various categories of products will definitely be different.
Okay. The other question comes from Rajesh Bhaskaran, and this is for you, Mr. Rajesh Singh, to answer. How much freedom will dealership have to get onto the digital platform on their own when most of the strategy is governed by principal company?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've been saying all along in the discussion, that expecting all the dealers to individually list themselves on the marketplaces, negotiate the terms, design systems and processes, actually not cost effective at all. So it has to be a OEM-led initiative whereby a OEM dedicates a set of people to talk to the marketplace and devises systems and processes. And unless that happens, I don't see much of a future in this process. And eventually, transactions have to happen. It has to have the blessing of the OEM. I think without the blessing of the OEM, transactions can't happen.
Do you agree?
Absolutely. I think it was, the OEMs around the world are very finicky about how the dealerships operate, how the brand is perceived. They really think of the dealership as their front to the consumer. So I think it's going to be a while before the dealerships can go on their own and define what the brand positioning is going to be and how the look and feel is going to be.
So there is another guy, he asked the same question, Manish Chaudhary. Why the OEMs are not forthcoming in this digital revolution that is happening?
I think the OEMs are more than forthcoming, and I think most OEMs have become very, very proactive in digital space. In fact, the OEMs are now pushing dealers to become digital. And I would agree with both of them that when it comes to the brand, the OEMs are going to be extremely careful about how the brand is being handled. So it cannot be an absolute free run for the dealers in terms of coming into the digital space. They can independently come into the digital space, but within the defined limits that the OEM allows, because it's their brand. And it's not just about your dealership, it's about 700 dealerships. So how the brand is handled is definitely going to be a call of the OEM. But how strong am I digitally will be my call in terms of generating leads, in terms of responding to those leads, in terms of responding to the consumer behavior, in terms of addressing customer concerns. But in terms of controlling the brand, I think it's definitely a call of the OEM.
Okay. So this comes as end of the ETAuto Roundtable, this edition. We will be back with the new edition. Thank you so much for watching.